What's up, guys? It's your boy, the Badwolf. All right, what are we talking about today? One of my favorite people, God rest your soul, and thank you for being a light in the darkness, Jacquie Figg. Jacquie Figg. For those people who don't know, she did pass away. I think it's like 2 years now. But she is the pioneer of right to travel. I'd never even heard of this information until I came across her and my various other, educational adventures. So in this particular video, and so credit is given to the host, who is Jerry Day, one of her good friends. This is also presented by in the particular video here, freedomtaker.com, so you can check them out. And so thank you in advance for you guys allowing me to utilize information. And of course, this is all under the fair use and whatever else. So this is only positive information, no negative criticism. So we're going to take a little look here about Jacquie Figg here on court seals and court authority. All right, so looks like let's see here. Let's get it going. Looks like it's about 31 minutes, and we're gonna take a gander. Once I can get the volume going.
Homeless problem the cities are always talking about. It turns out that this is all based on fraud. The banking industry is in on this. The government is in on this. Counties are in on this. The court systems are in on this. We have with us Jacquie Figg, and with her partner
Rick Jones
has researched this deeply and come up with some amazing things. What you need when you're being evicted and you're being foreclosed is you need to show whether or not that action is legitimate and authorized. It is not.
Ooh.
Jacquie Figg will explain.
Let's take a closer look
Let's hear her words about how
and
you
listen.
deal with this. And this not only involves foreclosures, but the entire court system and every action they take with regard.
Remember, this
to
program is content, is opinion, and not legal advice.
and writs. So the main action documents that the courts are issuing to control people's lives and to exert authority are in question. Here's why.
So the term process generally means a summons, a warrant of arrest, or a writ. And that particular product is a court product. It is solely owned by the court itself. And they are the ones that are supposed to issue those particular documents. On those documents is supposed to be what's called the requisite seal. There's a necessary seal that was designed by the legislature, and it is listed in the statutes.
That emblem, that seal.
An emblem, it has been called a logo, but it's not. It's a seal. It's to actually seal the authority of the people.
A seal
That's the way it is.
authority
And
of the
this
people.
changed in 2008.
Not a private
So
corporation.
right when everybody was losing their homes, I do remember the new name going up above the courts, and the seal was supposed to change also. And what we've discovered is that out of the 58 counties, county courts that I've contacted, I've had 32 responses back, and of those 32 responses, there's only one that has the requisite seal.
They're not really
So
complying with
this,
the law.
to me, sounds like they're not complying, well, like I said, with the actual law, but the legal
I was thinking
system.
that maybe they were careless, and that's why I started to write to
That
them.
means so
In
many
some
houses,
instances, we've actually
cars,
tried to
all these
hold
things
them
have been
accountable
taken and
with
done
a motion to
illegally.
quash or even a writ of mandamus. We had one court in Contra Costa, one judge pulled out his ruler, measured the seal, and said, yes, it's small, but we're going to allow it. But the
Even though it's not technically compliant with what the law prescribes it has to be.
The legislature-
He said, oh, that's not compliant, but I'm just going to let that go.
So you're telling me, now this is something I didn't even know, that when they put their seals on there, okay, if they're even lawful, the correct seals of the people, that if it's not even the right size, you can argue that issue? That means it's not in proper standing? Jacquie Figg, you've done it again. Girl, you keep impressing me. God rest your soul. Thank you much. Let us continue.
going to let that go. And the legislature says size matters. It must be 1 1/4
Size
inches
matters.
in diameter, and this seal fell short of that.
And those are little technical things, but what it is, it's the law saying it has to be this way. And in the case of 58 counties, 57 of them pretty much going, we'll do it any way we want, kind of, we don't need no stinking badges kind of thing. And it's not just the seal, but it's certain
Three amigos
with that, with their duty to, you know, adhere to their oaths and to have their oaths in place and to have their bonding and all these things they're supposed to do. The rules say they have to do. And they go, that's so much trouble. And as long as someone walks into court and presumes them to be authorized, they get away with it anyway.
Yeah, it's about the consent of the governed.
Right.
So we're dealing with de facto courts that are not quite the statutory courts. Being creatures of statute, they are required to abide by the statute in order to have jurisdiction.
Right.
When you're talking about the seal is to be placed on a summons. There's actually a square on the seal, and it actually says seal on it for the place for the seal to be
Bottom
placed.
left
They're not
corner.
doing it.
Right.
And so, technically speaking, that means that the summons or the warrant of arrest.
And was
or
it
the
actually
writ
signed by a
is not
licensed
facially valid.
judge
In fact, the Supreme Court has ruled that it's then void. There's a
from
case,
the
it's
federal
called,
or Supreme
Bettner
Court?
versus Halleck, and it was from
A real
1868.
judge, not an
And in
Article
that
1
case,
judge,
the
but an
Supreme
Article
Court
3
looked
judge.
at the question of the seal, and they said, if the seal is defined in the statutes and it is required on certain processes and not used, then those processes are void.
If there's
that's
no
actually
seal,
saying that if
it's
you
void.
find an error in the way the county is performing, then your whole action is void and you are not going to be foreclosed.
Ready to start eating
All
healthier?
right. So,
Meet Kachava. Kachava is the world's healthiest all-in-one meal shake.
Well, you know, I'm really looking at it from the perspective that we really want these courts to be the statutory courts. If we want them to follow the law, they need to be the creatures in the statute so we know what laws they're following. Right now, they're not following the simple compliance law.
so how are they going to tell you you're not in compliance for this, that, or the other when half of them aren't
The
either?
question is
Do as I say, not as I do?
itself a court really authorized because they're not complying with what the law says they have to be complying with to be a court. So you've got a non-court entity, and it seems like if we got them into full compliance and they had the right seal and they had the right processes, that then the law says, by the way, they're accountable for their errors and their omissions and their misconduct. They're accountable. They're a public agency. We have ways to hold them accountable. So it seems like by not using the right seal, not actually being a real court, they get outside of that accountability, and everybody just gives them consent and just says, okay, you must be a court. So we're letting
Everybody's
them
just
act
sitting
on
back
this
grabbing
authority.
ankles when
They're
what
not
they've
really
done to
courts.
you may not have
They're not
been
accountable
lawful.
It does certainly feel that way.
They legally got away with
that's
it, but
really what
if they're
we're
not
worried
in
about, is that
compliance,
it's not the court, and basically we're going in there and not getting substantial due process
Or justice.
or justice by any means.
so you can go
It is a way
to your state's
instigate
website,
massive land
and
grab
under their
for
statutes, they should have what's listed there as
It's a way
being
to become complicit with
what
a bunch
is
of crooked
the proper
bankers
legal
to take
seal
people's property.
of the
So
people.
It doesn't seem like this is some kind of accident. It seems
Size,
like the
dimension,
way the
color,
county
raised, not
has
raised, all of that.
not complied with
Might seem kind of
the law
petty and
has
small,
complied with.
but if it comes to them taking your house or your car or whatever else, or giving you a summons or a warrant,
By the bank.
if it's not on there,
The court I was discussing earlier,
or
there
it's
was a
not on there
judge
right,
who was out the
not the
ruling.
right size,
It's
not
kind
the
of
right
interesting
colors,
because
any of
they
that
actually went
stuff,
and got a new seal.
void.
And actually a new stamp. So there is a difference between a seal and a stamp. Some things are required to be sealed, some things are required to be stamped. And so anyway, they went and got a new stamp. They never had a seal that we've ever seen. And that stamp, they made it bigger, but then they changed the words completely. So before they had the right words, wrong size, although the words were not structurally correct. According to the legislature, the Superior Court of California, County of, and this one was Contra Costa, is required to be in upper and lower case. Their stamp was in all uppercase. That also makes a difference.
And they know that where the law is that tells them
Wow. So that just goes right back into some of the things that we were talking about with the all capitalized version. Why? Because all caps represents the corporation. So according to their legislator, I believe this is over in California, if they have it in all uppercase, we already know that's a corporation. We already know that we're dealing with these corporations. What she's saying, according to the statutes, okay, the issuing authority says your seal has to be in upper and lower case. What is chiming? Chime? I got nothing. So that being said, their seals are not in a lawful standing. They're not properly formatted. They have to be in upper and lower, at least in this particular case. That's why you need to go and check yours to see what's going on.
How it has to look. This is how a
It's in
seal must look.
quotes.
And so you believe that was intentional?
We are beginning to believe that it is intentional from some of the changes that we're seeing, and yet they're still not complying with the black letter of the law.
So technically it's not a court. Technically it's just a place you go in and agree as a court. And therefore they're not accountable or bound by any of their performance standards. And therefore you can be completely robbed and mistreated. And this explains why so many people going into foreclosures think, how did they just rob me? You know, how did they get away with this? This is obviously not right.
We're definitely seeing it as a place where theft occurs.
Yes, in unimaginable scale.
Yeah, probate, family law, two of the biggest theft arenas that you can imagine.
Yeah.
Definitely the UD court, which is the unlawful detainer court, and of course traffic court. The only reason it's there is for revenue generation.
Right. Obviously, massively off due process. If you look at how traffic courts work,
It's nothing statutory
about it. Ridiculous joke
Absolutely.
in terms of due process and protection of rights. Okay, so what do we do now? You have a website where you're going to have documents that you can serve if you're subject to a warrant, a writ, or a summons.
A summons. Yeah.
Where you can serve this. And now this is important to mention. This is not something you file in your court case. You actually serve this on the thing calling itself a court, saying, no, you have to, this is an order to abate my case because you're not a court. Go over that again.
Yeah, so it's long been said that if you're coming up to a de facto officer or a de facto office, if you don't challenge that office in the right method, then basically they just roll over you and it becomes your consent. So what we're saying is that you need to challenge the de facto court right at the beginning and ask.
What have I been telling you guys?
Still give them the opportunity to change their process and serve you with proper process, due process, legal process, and then the court case can proceed. But up until that point, it should not proceed without the requisite seal.
And it seems like you're just making picky points about little details, technical details, but these are the details that determine whether a court is legitimate or not,
Absolutely.
whether it actually is a court or not. It has to comply with the prescribed technicalities of the law. And it has to offer you those kinds of processes.
I think for those of you out there that like to buy like nice purses or handbags, shoes, like there's a place called Gucci, and a lot of people know what Gucci looks like, and it's like in this case you think you're getting Gucci and actually you're getting Guici. It's a knockoff. So this is a knockoff court. It's not the real court.
So
Right.
what really is going on here is not so much that it's not a real court, but it is a commercial court operating within its Congress authorized jurisdiction. Problem is we don't know, or I mean we know, but the average person doesn't know the difference. That's what she's trying to say. You can take some Nikes and, go to a basketball court. People are going to know if they're real Nikes or fake, Instead of 23, you got 32 on there. And Jordan's the wrong way.
And it will be at internallydisplacedpeople.org/court seals.
Court seals. Court seals.
Yes.
And that may be up. Hopefully it should be up by the time we release this video. So hopefully go straight over to internallydisplacedpeople.org/court seals, and you will see Jackie explaining how to do this, and you will have the free download documents that you need as templates. And we need a lot of people to do this, I think.
Yeah, we now need the numbers. So as I said earlier, we have tried to deal with this in a smaller group, and the court is very reluctant to make the correct changes. And so this just shows that they're defiant in their procedures.
In their position.
Yeah.
So is it not that if you have a court that is not using the proper seals and not complying with the technicalities they're required to, under law, to comply with, that you are sort of only there because of your consent? There's no legitimate legal action. But on the other side, if they do have the right seal and they do have everything in place and they're doing things properly and by the law as they must do, as they tell us we must do, well, then they're accountable. Then the law
Yes.
says they can only do this and this and this. The law says they must adhere to due process. The law says they must have these things done right.
Yeah.
And in the case of foreclosures, usually there's many, many errors and flaws and misconduct in those processes.
This is
So-
true.
So in other words,
It's also why it's a good reason if anybody is trying to look up for mortgage fraud, or you're dealing with a foreclosure, contact my guy Sean Adley at mortgageauditsonline.com and tell him the Badwolf sent you.
Unlawful detainer, which would come with both a summons and a writ at the end.
Okay.
There is another element of this, and that is a sheriff has a duty to serve a facially valid instrument. They can't just go around serving any summons, any writ, or any warrant. It needs to be what's termed facially valid.
So do we need to tell the sheriff that the document is not valid? So
There's a notice. There will be a notice on the website to tell the sheriff that the documents he is serving is not facially valid.
Right.
And he does become liable on his bonds if he has them.
Right.
You know, obviously,
This is fire.
if they're all operating out of de facto offices, we found that they don't have the requisite oath, they don't have the requisite bonds.
Right.
So these are other elements. So this is one way where you're talking about the recognition and the authority. If we can push them back into that office, then pretty much everybody else would have to comply. Because if they're a proper office, they would not be able to hire or employ officers that don't have the requisite qualifications.
Now, if I'm under an unlawful detainer and the sheriff serves papers on me that are not compliant,
Yes.
and the sheriff has no bond, and the sheriff has no valid oath on record, what do I do?
We are definitely finding that. Again, it comes back to numbers. We need enough people to start, making that known that they don't approve of that. I mean, that's really, really important.
So in other words,
We will definitely have a notice to serve the sheriff, yes.
All right.
But we will,
this is going to take, what they're talking about is going to take people understanding what's going on,
We need people in mass.
and then contacting your congress people, your congressman or congresswoman, your attorney general, secretary of your state, governor, and letting them know that they're not operating in compliance.
Fix that before we move on.
Yeah.
Okay, fix that. Okay, now some sheriff, if there is such a thing, that has the correct legally required bond and oath, serves it on me. Now we have the problem with the county's not using the proper seal or the proper process or the proper instruments or whatever. And so there are. Do you not see this as a stage of multiple opportunities to challenge the system when someone's trying to steal our homes?
Yes, I see that as a way of not just challenging the system, but bringing the system back into compliance.
Right.
We were promised a Republican form of government, and one of those benefits of a Republican form of government is that the people have the power, and so this is putting the power back into the people's
Court.
Hands.
Back to the people.
Forgive the pun.
Power to the people. Sorry.
Right.
Yes.
So if we had compliant courts and
Yes.
if we had compliant sheriffs and officers and everybody doing things under the law, it would be very difficult for the bankers to be seizing homes at the rate and scale that they have since 2008. It's a scam, and the government is now complicit by pretending to be a legitimate government when it's acting completely outside those restraints.
Yes. So the movies that you've seen in regards to foreclosure, they may talk about, the mortgage industry itself, but they really don't address the government side of this. And definitely the courts, many of the judges have their pensions in derivatives, and so do the counties. And so this is really a heinous situation that is going on and very much causing a lot of displacement.
Heinous.
All right, the homeless problem. There's horrible.
It's horrible.
The horrible.
It's very, very sad. You see Skid Row. It's just very, very sad.
They say when's,
Yeah, I believe this is over in California or somewhere near there, and it's just atrocious. The people that are homeless on the streets, either because of the mortgage industry or, banks and whatever else they're doing. Some of them by choice, but the ones who've lost them and now are on the streets because of fraud and deception. It's all business. It's all business to them.
Another thing that people don't think about. McKinney-Vento Act.
Okay.
And another thing that people don't think about much is animals, the displacement of animals.
Right.
If you have a dog, they can live in a tent with you, but I mean, if you had rabbits, chickens, or horses, any of these other things, they're gone.
I don't think we need to make the point that
It's really
foreclosure is a very
Terrifying.
horrible and disruptive
Yes.
thing to any
Absolutely.
family and any individual. But so what other final points do we need to make about this? Because you do have something that looks like a ray of sunshine here. You do have a way to come back on this fraud and this wrongdoing, and to possibly now, is this a way ultimately to save a person's house?
Here's the thing, we're dealing with unknown persons, shall we say. We don't recognize them. I have never seen anything really stop them. It's kind of like standing with a piece of paper in front of a freight train. The paper's not necessarily going to save you. You must keep track of your case. Any case, you really want to make sure that it is abated.
Yeah.
So don't just serve papers and leave it at that and think it's done. You really must keep track of what's going on. You must be assertive in the abatement.
And it might require a follow-up, like a
Follow-up,
default service or something.
Yes.
And maybe you'll have
Other
some advice for
follow-ups.
that on your website.
Yes.
Internally displacedpeople.org /
/court seals.
Court
So we'll have
seals. So you have hopefully by the time this video is up, you'll have a full
This was created some time ago, at least 3 years. So I don't even know if that website's up. But I'm going to take a look, enjoy the video, and I'm going to see if I can find it.
And you're prepared to do the research. If you discover any of these court seals, please send them along to us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. Other states. So it's a different situation. And you said where do you look up whether they have their correct seal? That you had some advice on that.
So the rule is it comes under California Rules of Court. So you'd have to look under your state Rules of Court.
Rules of Court.
Yes, in California it's found at 10.500, and it's referred to as it's access to judicial administrative records. It is not the same place where you find out about cases that have been filed. It is totally different. You have to go to the administrative side. So
it's not in public records.
It's not in public records. It's in the administrative record.
Okay, very good.
And you do have to ask. You will have to research. You have to read the rules as to the way that you're going to ask. So it's kind of a little bit like playing Jeopardy. So you can't just ask for an image. You have to ask for a record that contains an image.
In your request for their seal and their compliance.
In their compliance.
For how they're supposed to behave as a county or as a court system.
Yes, it's a records.
Okay.
Generally, you should be able to go straight to the administrative office and ask them. That's another way that you can do it. But generally, you would write a letter or an email.
Right. So the important thing is that many people do this.
Yes.
Because, like you're talking about that freight train, that's the freight train of force of the county. A few hundred of us become a freight train against
them.
And so one person, two people, it's a little more difficult. But if people get together on your website, somehow utilize your system.
Doesn't look like it's up.
Put this thing in a somewhat upscaled manner, numbers. Then we have something sort of an irresistible force that when counties, it's pointed out by many, many people that counties are sort of imposters, courts are imposters, and that they're doing serious harm to the public under some kind of complicity with banks or whatever, and there are large numbers doing that. We could move mountains, and that means that everyone who can go to this website and who can, you know, obviously people who are under foreclosure have a great incentive to do this.
Yes.
This is how you save your house. Hopefully, if enough people can get behind this. Now, is it possible that one person with the right moves and using your website could make some headway into keeping their home or
Certainly in terms of unlawful detainer, because it wouldn't happen at the foreclosure stage if you're in a non-judicial state. A non-judicial foreclosure state. So that's a really difficult situation because it doesn't happen within the courts itself.
Whether you're in a judicial state or non-judicial state, whatever the circumstances are, is it to your benefit to bring this abatement action against the
Absolutely.
court?
Any case that's filed against you where a summons is issued, you know, all you're going to do is look on that very first page, and if the box is blank or if the seal does not comply with the law, sometimes it just says copy. We've found all kinds of different.
Yeah, you said 57 out of 58 counties that you canvassed
Yeah.
were non-compliant.
Yeah, they're non-compliant.
So it's
all the
almost-
ones we've seen are pretty much non-compliant.
It's almost assured that you're going to have that problem. You file the, what is it, abatement again?
You file the
Or
lawful.
serve, not file.
Yeah, you serve the lawful direction for abatement at law due to
you
facially void summons, which you can
Which
download from the website.
internally displaced
Yeah.
people.org/court seals.
Yes, and I just want to quickly show you a couple of examples of some of the responses that we've had.
Yep.
So in this one right here, we have.
So responses mean you asked the county to show you their seal.
Yes.
And they said they
And this one I got back. This one took a couple of times going back and forward, and finally I got a response from Catherine, and she's at Calaveras, and I think it's cute, so I think it's worth reading.
Okay.
Which you can download from the website.
Internally displaced
Yeah.
people.org/court seals.
Yes, and I just want to quickly show you a couple of examples of some of the responses that we've had.
Yep.
So in this one right here, we have.
So responses mean you asked the county to show you their seal.
Yes.
And they said
And this one I got back. This one took a couple of times going back and forward, and finally I got a response from Catherine, and she's at Calaveras, and I think it's cute, so I think it's worth reading.
Okay.
This is our letterhead with the logo. Our CEO has advised me to send you this.
Our CEO.
Our CEO. I am not sure when the logo was adopted.
Corporation.
It has been used for at least the 19 years I've been here. And as you can see on the letterhead, they have the new name of the court, which is Superior Court of California, County of Calaveras, upper and lowercase.
Right.
But when you look at the seal, it says Superior Court or Superior Court, Calaveras County, California, which is not the
Wrong.
required seal. It's completely wrong. It's all in uppercase for one thing.
So they have it right on their letterhead.
They have it right on the
but
letterhead
seal, they
and
messed
wrong
it
on
all
the
up.
seal. Yes.
So you know, obviously, you'll probably see this a lot.
A lot.
It's different.
Your
it's
seal
different, but-
is not in
So you can
compliance.
see in this one, Solano, they have a copy of the stamp and the seal. Great size, great. I mean, everything's good about it except the writing is in all uppercase, so there's not the legislative typeface
Yeah, it's
that was
not
required.
technically compliant.
It's not technically compliant. And I don't know whether they use it correctly either. So that's another thing.
So again, these seem like minor technicalities, but they're the difference between a legitimate public agency and one who is violating the rules and not complying
Yeah.
and not acting as a public agency.
Yeah.
They're acting as some kind of private whatever.
Corporation.
Exactly. This is kind of common, as you can see. They're using the same photo as the or the same picture as the Great Seal of California, but they have the different wording around it. Again, the wording is not in upper and lower cases.
Hold that up a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is all upper and lower. All uppercase should be upper and lower.
It should be upper and lower. And then worse still, we've had several courts that have written back and saying that they don't have a seal of their own, and so they're using the state seal. This would not be correct.
No.
So that every court is required to have its own seal. It was depicted in the statutes the way it's supposed to be written,
Right.
how it's supposed to be adopted, and the Great Seal of California is only supposed to be used by the Secretary of State.
For the state, yeah.
She is the keeper of the Great Seal. So there's a bunch of seals running around that don't belong, that are in places where they don't belong, and that's a concern too.
It seems intentional. They must, if they're reading the law and how to make a
So
seal,
the courts are supposed to be using their own
I had
seals
one
that are
call
in
that
compliance,
that they knew the law. They actually said to me the law.
but some of them are
we
using
didn't.
the state's seal
That one was a kicker, and I
inappropriately.
didn't
That could
like
also
bring
be
this one up.
copyright
And
infringement,
then here we have one. This one here
Uh,
says Superior Court, Ventura
fraud.
County, California. This one's completely wrong. Wrong size. Wrong writing around it, and the wrong. It's in uppercase.
Okay.
And then this is the only county that was correct. This is Superior Court of California, County of San Diego.
Yeah.
However, we have various samples of summonses issued by San Diego, which shows although the clerk has the requisite seal, they even know when it was adopted. Actually, this San Diego and Calaveras kind of, gave me the most amount of information, and Napa. Napa actually was wonderful with giving me information. But they don't seem to know how to use the seal. They don't realize that it's supposed to be used on a summons or a writ.
You look at your summons, your writ, or your warrant, and you look for that. You look for that.
And
exactly. At your website,
Absolutely.
it says how it exactly has to be.
Yes.
It has a couple. This is not something you're making.
I'm not making it up,
quoted
yeah.
from the law. This has to be this. Has to be this. Has to be this.
Yes.
If you look at what it has to be, and then you look at the stamp or the imprint or whatever
Yeah.
on your.
It's kind of like what I was telling you guys with the American flag. Was it 4 Chapter 1 title flag? How it has to be per the description.
For abatement.
Anything where it's not red, white, and blue,
It
those
is
are the
a
only
mouthful.
colors,
Specifically
that size,
designed
the
for
number of
abatement.
stars and
Lawful
stripes,
direction for abatement
nothing
at law
on
is
it,
to facially void
nothing touching it,
summons.
nothing draping
So
from it.
it is a common
If it
law
does,
action, and
it is
so it's
not
very
the
specific
true
in its
American
wording.
flag.
Right. So if they're a legitimate
Things have to
court,
be
if they were real,
specifically
they'd
done.
have to obey.
Seems like there's a lot of mockery and deception going on.
They would have the right seal.
Right.
And what I hope to get from this video, Jerry, is enough people to see, and especially the rule followers out there. We want the rule followers to see, look, here's the rules, and these people who you think are
Problem
are
is that most of the
enforcing
low-level
rules,
functionaries,
they're not
rule
following their own
followers,
rules. And that's really
working
the
for them
main issue
especially,
that we're
aren't
gonna
going
get
to
across.
challenge management
Expect you to follow
because
rules, would you not expect them
that's
to
where they get
follow
their money
own
from.
rules
Yes.
as well?
And we would be happy to follow the rules. If I was walking into what I would call a legislative court, then I would feel like I would be getting substantial due process and some justice.
And you would have accountability.
I would have
for
accountability.
for their conduct.
Yes, right now we're seeing no accountability.
They're not acting properly. When you call them on it, they say, "I don't have to act properly."
Like the judge with the ruler.
Right. They say, well,
So there's some things that they both don't know that we've already talked about in many of my videos as to why they're able to do these things. These are some of the pieces that they missed.
With no seal telling us that the small seal is okay.
Very close, but they don't have all of the info.
So it's a difficult problem.
It's a difficult problem.
Because they're not really a legitimate court. They're not the
Exactly.
court telling you anything.
Yeah.
So part of it is there a way for me to go in or deal with this court where I don't grant consent to
And
them
that's the
as a
abatement.
court?
That's why we chose the
abatement.
abatement as opposed to a motion. Because
Okay.
a motion, you're pretty much saying, "Hey, I recognize you, and I'm asking you to do something for me."
So if you send in the abatement and they're supposed to dismiss or abate on that,
Yes.
and they call you back, you just send in a copy of that abatement. So I'm sorry, you were abated. It's done.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure where we go with our next step, except maybe the legislature.
Right.
I have been to the legislature previously on
Right.
this subject and tried to ask them questions. They do tend to clam up. I also have spoken to the Judicial Council over the last 2 years. I brought them this problem, and they kind of said to me, "So are you saying that all of our processes are void?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not saying that. The Supreme Court said that. I'm not
I didn't even
dictating
think of
how
that.
this is
Oh
supposed to
my
be.
goodness.
I'm just looking for the legislative court."
Exactly. And if you go to the legislature, you need.
Do you know how many things?
In other words, the legislature doesn't notice anything unless there's a
Educational information only.
So is there a way?
How many things are then considered void and valid?
You'll have your website up. You'll have your abatement forms that people can download. You'll have your video
Woo!
on how to do it.
Fire!
You'll also have
I'm
on
bringing
your
it to you
website
from Jacquie
a way for
Figg.
people to register with you so that you can walk into the legislature and say, "I've got 2,000 people who have done this. What about them?" as opposed to I did it myself.
That would be great. Another option that we could do is maybe put a link so that people can actually send a copy to the legislature.
Right.
Because maybe if the
Her website is
representatives in the
down.
legislature
If anybody
start
still
seeing
has the
that, hey,
files,
people are waking up, we're
let me
seeing
know.
this is not the way that
I'll try to
you
do some
said it.
digging, but
That's
Yeah.
even better because
Yeah.
we go direct.
don't forget to check out blacksite32.com for updates and new things coming up, discounts, deals, all the shebang-a-bang.
And the government immediately undercounted my petitions by 50%, shamelessly looking me right in the eye. And I said, where did you get that number? They said, that's what we counted. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, that would definitely be possible. We could put up a petition, a link to a petition so that people could actually sign the petition. That would be great.
If you'd like to be heard and like to be represented in the, action of correcting corrupt banks, unauthorized courts, people who are unlawfully seizing people's homes and throwing them out on the street homeless, if you'd like to be part of that, there's a little step you could take, which is to add your name to some kind of list, and there's the phone. I think we're done. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it. If you did not get some fire info from there and find this entertainment and education celestial class, all I can say is then you're not in the right spot. Oh, looks like I got a halo. Hold on. Hallelujah. 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 All right, guys, that's it. The Badwolf's over for the moment, and we're about to take off, but we are not out. So, once again, hit me up on blacksite32.com. Otherwise, you can find, if you want to support the channel, you can go over to the YouTube channel, the main one here, James C. Lovett, and you can click the join button to join the Badwolf Wolf Pack. Find out some of the additional information, behind the scenes goodies, and all that kind of stuff. Also, you get information before I make a video, sometimes a month or 2 months or a year in advance. So check out those things. Otherwise, though I don't have any videos up yet on Patreon, if you want to support there, you can do that over there. It's just James C. Lovett. Okay? That's it. Go do some fun. Take care of yourselves. Happy holidays. And more videos coming your way. Wolf!